And then I'll share my screen. And we should be good to go. All right, is everybody seeing this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it.
I'm gonna use the slide sorter or the slide presentation here tonight, and just want to welcome you all to day 2 of Next Level Career Growth. My name is Bill. So this is all about your career selling point, how to create a value proposition that's going to be meaningful and valuable, not just to you, but to anybody that you run into in any of your job search activities. That includes hiring managers, recruiters, people you network with, industry associations, networking groups, whatever it might be. So we're going to get straight to it. And we're going to go through some homework from last night. Welcome, Lilia. Welcome, Mike. Welcome, let's see, Michael, and Melody, John, and Jeffrey, and Lynn. And I think I got everybody, and Desiree. So, Desiree, I know you may not be able to get on video, but if you can, that would be great. And I understand why you're on mute. So, all right. So, with no further ado, let's get rolling.
Hey, how are you? I will be not on video right now because I am currently driving, but I will in 5 minutes when I get home.
Okay, sounds great. So if and so that way, don't worry about seeing this. It'll be on the recording. But today is day 2. Last night we talked about getting paid in your purpose, defining what your purpose is, both from a career standpoint and a life standpoint. We're going to go through some of the quote unquote homework that I gave you last night. I'd love to have some volunteers here in a minute. But tonight is all about what is your selling point? What's your value proposition? We used to say in the advertising world, what is your unique selling point, your unique feeling point, and your unique value proposition? Those three all go together. So we'll get to that here in a few minutes. So last night, the homework, what is your purpose? What's your mission? What's your current career objective? And if anybody would like to share that, the floor is open. Not everybody at once. What was coming up for you as you were defining that, or as you were reflecting on what we talked about um, on the Zoom call? What was coming up, and where did you land? Some of you, I know the answers already, but I'm not going to reveal them. I'll let you do that.
Well, I landed flat on my face because I'm just looking at it to do now. So I didn't even make time for it really today.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I have a half-assed, excuse me, chicken scratch, jotted down. So
There have been
truth be
bill,
told.
there have been multi-billion-dollar companies founded on a napkin. So don't worry about
Mhm.
your chicken scratch. Whatever it is that you've done is a starting point.
Yeah.
All right. I won't overemphasize this in terms of making you volunteer, but it's intended to be interactive, and it really helps everybody else if you want to put it out there as what's happening for you. And everybody here is unique. It's not going to be anything like whatever you say is may not apply at all to what somebody else might be thinking or feeling or wanting to aspire to, but it will give them a trigger often of like, oh, I never thought about it like that. And it's not so much whatever the outcome is, it's how the process goes or how the process went for you to get there. And if you haven't done your homework, let's start with that. How many of you did have the chance to spend the 15, 20 minutes or so doing what I gave you for last night? You can raise your hands.
Hey,
Okay.
Bill.
Yes.
Granted, I wasn't here yesterday
Hmm.
and didn't get a chance to see the video, but I could take a swing at it while I'm driving
Um, go ahead.
because you're on Bluetooth. Purpose is to continue furthering my career and my education. Mission is to complete sonography school and to hopefully find a part-time job while doing so. And that could be in conjunction with the objective to get both missions completed.
Okay. And just for perspective, Desiree is single mother of two, juggling 2 jobs and 2 kids, and going to school at the same time. So,
No, I was working 2 jobs, but since going to school, I am not working currently. So I'm looking for a
okay,
part-time job.
okay, all right then. Um, but your mission, purpose, and objective are very clear in terms of finishing your
Yes,
degree, landing in that field, landing a position in that field so that you can better support your family.
absolutely.
Okay,
As you can hear them in the background.
that's okay. Melody, you raised your hand, and I know you talked about it last night. I don't think it changed much, but you can kind of fill in the blanks there.
Okay, I'm not sure where it all falls between purpose, mission, whatever. But what I've got is I still want to work with kids or babies in the nonprofit sector. But instead of just being a volunteer position, I would like to actually get a paycheck and I would actually like to run an office eventually. Um, I really want to be respected, valued. Um, I want to have financial freedom so I don't have to worry about working my painting and handyman business. And I want to live comfortably within my means. And I want to give back to my community. That's the
Okay.
most important thing for me.
That's great. And one of the exercises we're going to do tonight will be defining your ideal job description. And well, when we get to that, you'll know exactly what I'm saying. But you're very close to filling in what that paragraph, quote unquote, requires by saying what you just did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So again, whatever chicken scratch you may have started with or random notes, Mike, go ahead.
Oh, um, so Bill, and hello everybody. I took a slightly different approach.
Okay.
I I jumped ahead and I said to myself, after this week, when I sit down with Bill and we do our one-to-one, I'm probably going to start off by giving him a whole background of my story so he better understands me, you
Mhm.
know? And I wrote that out. And as I was writing that, it clicked because I think to answer your three questions, know thyself, right?
Hmm.
Really important. And I believe once you can accomplish that, then you know your purpose, your mission, your objective. So that's how I approached it. Kind of like wrote down my origin story, my good, my bad, my experiences, and just kind of like evolved it from there without getting into specifics. But it was good writing it down actually.
The journaling part of this, any part of this, is very, very powerful for a couple of reasons. One, it gets it off your chest or out of your head. Number one. Number two, you can look back on it. And number three, you can see where you've progressed from the day you wrote it down to wherever it is you look at it again. Okay. And Mike, if you would, because I had two calls last night because I messed up the time, could you tell folks what happened yesterday morning?
Oh, well, without getting into too many specifics, but I mean, it's been a long time coming, but I gave in my 2 weeks notice without even having, another job lined up. And I'm not trying to be arrogant about it, but there was just enough is enough. And I needed a break anyway. And I'm certainly 100% into the next move. I mean, I'm here, right?
Right.
But, that's where I'm at.
Okay. So again, everybody who shares is going to trigger something positive, negative, whatever in each of you in terms of what your journeys are all about. And everybody's journey is different. So, Mike, to make a long story short, 6 years at a position where you probably deserved a promotion 3 or 4 years ago didn't come. And there were several other things that went along for the ride that were supposed to happen and didn't. And you finally just said, no mas. So,
Yeah.
give you a lot of credit for that. It takes a lot of, as they say in the barrios, cojones to pull that off. And, but you are now honoring yourself more than it is that you're more than your employer did. And there's a lot to be said for that. And that,
I was doubling down, and then at some point throwing good money after bad.
Mhm.
And you know how that goes. After a while, it's, you're like, well, I've invested so much, just a little bit more, a little bit more. And then one day you wake up and you're like, whoa, it's been a while.
you are not the only one on this call who could say almost those exact same words. Okay, so thanks for putting it out there. and for having the courage to do what you did, even though it may, in the short run, have a temporary quote unquote setback, or at least a detour or speed bump, whatever you want to call it. But ultimately, you're going to win,
Thank
which
you.
is what matters. So, okay. All right. With that, I'll move on to.
May I
Oh,
say something if that's
oh
okay?
yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Just to what the gentleman had said and presented, one thing that I have learned, because I was with the company since 2015 and I left in 2023, is people will treat you how you allow them to treat you. And it's unfortunate that, you know, you spent so much time and investment in working for a company and grew to like and dislike some things, but if you were promised a promotion after a certain time and they kept pushing it to the wayside, you did the right thing.
There you go. External third-party validation from just what you said in the last 2 minutes, Mike.
Hey,
Okay.
Bill.
Totally agreed. And I just really quick, speaking with some colleagues, you know, somebody shared something that he had picked up from someone else, that when you go in and negotiate with an employer, it's a little extreme, but you have to. His take was negotiate as if it's the last day of your life.
Mhm.
You know, sometimes if you play it too safe, it's even worse.
We will get into an extended discussion on negotiating Thursday night. Okay, interviewing and negotiating that kind of go hand in hand. So looking forward to that. Okay, so as we step back from career for a moment and look at all areas of our lives, and this is all in the first part of my book. I talked about it last night, Finding God's True Purpose for Your Career. Career is a part of your life, but it is not your life. Even though when you're in your 20s and your 30s, it's a huge percentage of your time. So where are you in each area of your life? And I'm going to bring them up here on the next slide. What have you done to manifest those things in your life outside of career and inside of your career that are important to you? How do you make your career vocation fit these dreams with your short, medium, and long-term goals? Okay. And if you're looking at me, there's a whole lot more days behind me than there are ahead of me. And if they're the same amount ahead of me as behind me, my kids will go nuts. But that's another story. So all of this has to really align with your core values. And Desiree and Mike, you were speaking directly to the value of being valued by your employer for the work that you do, the effort you put in, the results you create. These goals or your dreams must be meaningful to you and those near you, but more importantly, it's to you. I mean, God put us all here for a variety of reasons. Career is a very important one, but we're going to talk about a few of the other aspects of your life before we get to value proposition. I wanted to close the conversation out from last night with what I'm going to say now. In the book, or in my book, and I worked with several clients on this particular aspect. I think I'm up to about 70 or so at this point. What are your dreams in all these areas of your life? And if you want to take a screenshot of this, go ahead and do it. The goal is to come up with 100 total dreams. The first time I saw this was back in 2009. It took me about a day and a half to come up with 65. It took me 6 months to come up with 108. And in the succeeding 10 years, from January 1st of 2010 to January 1st of 2020, I knocked off 42 out of those 108. On January 1st of 2020, I started a new list, which has 111 items on it, and I divided it up into 11 items in 11 years. So God willing, and I live that long, I'll be able to pull many of those together. But individually, what my goals are meaningless to each of you. But the idea of putting goals out in front of yourself in each of these areas of your life is really, really important. And I use this with permission from a book called The Dream Manager by a guy named Matthew Kelly. And I'll just give you a little background on it. He runs an organizational development company out of Australia. In the UK and in the United States and in Canada, he has offices and he has an extensive staff. And he's also a very prominent author in the Catholic Church as a layperson. But the goal of this book was to define this company as the Dream Manager human resources role. It was a janitorial services company that had worse turnover than McDonald's. They would lose people every 2 or 3 months. They hired the Dream Manager, and the Dream Manager's sole goal was to sit down with every employee from the newest janitor to the CEO and say, what are your goals and how can we support you in attaining them? And he used an example of a single mother of 3 who was in her early 50s, who said, my biggest goal is to have a home for my 3 children. I've never had one. So what they did was they worked out an agreement by which the company would match her savings account withdrawals, and then they co-signed the loan after she had enough for the down payment. What do you think happened after she was able to buy her home? Maybe I should ask that another way. How do you think she felt about the company after she was able to buy the home?
Great loyalty.
Probably loved working there.
Absolutely. I mean, these are people that are going in the middle of the night to clean offices and factories and other, industrial locations. Not a very glamorous job. Not only was she loyal, but she was an evangelist. She recruited all of her best relatives and friends to go to work for this company, and they became similarly loyal because this dream manager was doing his job. So I'm not the same dream manager as what's in this book, but it's close. Okay, because I'm not here to make a contract with you about whether or not I'm going to be able to co-sign your housing loan. That would be a huge stretch for me, by the way. But I am here to challenge you to isolate and specify what certain things matter to you the most. All right. And there are no right or wrong answers unless you're going to sell illegal drugs, rob a bank, or take people out on the street corner. All right. So it is not for me to say what your goals and dreams should be, but it is for me to help you clarify them. All right. And again, this is an exercise I do, and I've done with about 70 clients up to this point. And it's been really eye-opening, not so much for me, but for each individual that's gone through it. All right. So I'm going to move on from this. As part of what is the right fit for you as a quote unquote employee, as an entrepreneur, as a consultant, whatever it might be, there are several different quote unquote diagnostics that I find to be really, really helpful. Myers-Briggs is the best one as far as I'm concerned. There's introvert, extrovert, sensing, intuition, thinking, feeling, judging, perceiving. There is a website right now which will cost you all of $9 and you get a 60-page report. It's called 16, that's the number 16 personalities.com. It is well worth doing if you've never done it before. It'll give you a really good handle of what your personality is, both outside the workplace and inside the workplace. It will give you a definition of what kind of, a warrior. Are you an advocate? Are you someone who's a perseverer? Whatever. There's all kinds of quote unquote archetypes that come out of this. And for $9, it's just well worth it. It used to be you had to pay 40 to do the whole full Myers-Briggs and you get a full report and all this, but whatever this website is I found to be really good. There are other surveys that are also good in terms of defining how you interact with others in the workplace. DISC is another one. It stands for dominant, influential, steady, and conscientious. And again, no right or wrong answers. You just answer the questions and then it spits out what it is that you fall into on the spectrum. Jeffrey, you may have seen some of these at different points, correct? Okay, in your role, I'm sure you have. I come in under dominant, influential, somebody who is a finance and accounting major and really good at it, which I'm not, would come in under steady and conscientious. I'm generalizing here. Okay, there are all kinds of quote unquote metrics and parameters that you can do, but the more you know about yourself, the easier, Mike, like you were saying, the easier it is going to be for you to put yourself out there in whatever way that is and to interact with others. All right. So again, these are just some examples of some of the stuff that if we work together, I'm going to recommend that we do, and then assimilate those into what it is that you want to be doing next. Okay. I'm going to go outside of what we've talked about to this point to those who may be in transition. And I've had 2 extended periods of unemployment in my career. One of them was right after the financial crisis. It was almost 2 years between meaningful gigs. It was the absolute worst time of my life for so many reasons. But the whole section in the book on this as well. Stages of grief, loss, and revival. First is shock. You get the notice that, hey, tomorrow's your last day. And there are a couple people on the line who can know exactly what it is that I'm talking about. Desiree, I'll be with you in a second. Then there's a denial, there's fear and anger, depression, and then bargaining with the situation. And finally, you realize, okay, it's time to move on and do something. My goal and my role in any of the work that I do with this is to make the period between the initial stage of grief and that acceptance and enthusiasm be as concise and compact as possible, because the days roll on whether you're one or not. The sun's going to rise tomorrow morning in the east, as best I can tell, and it will set in the west, just like it did a few minutes ago here. All right. So for those of you who have the emotional wherewithal to handle this, or the spiritual background, whatever it is that you can get through these situations gracefully, God bless you. I did gracefully once. I didn't the second time. It just the way it went, and it was really, really difficult. Me, my family, people around me, and everything else. Desiree, you're going to say something.
Yes, it's just a side comment. As I said before, I was driving, so now, just in case if you call on me, I'm bringing my kids in the house, and then I'll be on video.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. There's another set of exercises that I go through in great detail, which is I call values, needs, skills, impact, and things that are really important to you. All right. What are you looking for in your work environment? How does it align with your values, skills, and interest? The other part of this, and now I'm getting into what we're going to do for your value proposition, aka resume, is how do you determine what you've accomplished and what the value is of those accomplishments? How do you match your preferences and the things you're really good at? If you go back to that Venn diagram we looked at yesterday, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, what you enjoy doing, and what the world needs, how do you match those preferences with a realistic position? Sometimes it's not that easy. And then identify how these relate to specific roles. All right, so then we're going to get into, this is where the meat of today is coming from. When you do all that, and you, like Mike, you were saying before, is when you quote unquote know thyself, what does that mean in terms of your options going forward? And I've just listed pretty extensive array here of options that you could consider. Corporations and large firms, I worked for a lot of those. Small to medium-sized company, yes. Consulting, yes. Starting your own business, franchise, multi-level marketing, yes and yes. Hobby into a money-making venture, didn't really work out that way. I did work in healthcare, but not as a provider, not in hospital, not as a payer, insurer, or assisted living. Legal or regulatory or entertainment, I've never done those. I've worked with clients who have those backgrounds, but I've never done them myself. So those are the for-profit businesses. Then there's a whole list of government, public sector roles. Most of the government positions that I've seen and some of the politics that go along with it, I'd probably gouge my eyes out before I'd work in a government role. For a lot of people, though, it makes a lot of sense. First responders, worked with a lot of clients and a lot of friends who've done law enforcement, military, firefighting, etc. Education, several clients in that role as well, in either administrative at a university or college or primary school, or in a teaching position. My sister's been a teacher in high school since the early 90s, and she's still doing it. Had to change the whole dynamic during COVID, which was a really difficult time, but they made it. And then nonprofits, and that's come up a couple times in the conversations both last night here and tonight. So again, I'm just, as you're doing your quote unquote exploratory as to what you want to do next and why, this is a good place to start from an outline standpoint and say yes, no, maybe to each or any of the ones that you're looking at here. Okay, so search objectives. And this is what I ask clients to do. And if you want to take a screenshot of this, feel free to do that. What's going to be critical for you and why? All right, and this is the exact verbatim, word for word description that a client used, I think it was about 6 years ago. And he had significant experience in television, radio, video production, and had lots of accomplishments. He had owned his own company for about 22 or 3 years. For various reasons, decided not to continue it and was looking for a position in a business development or marketing role because he knew everything about that business and could sell it like the back of his hand. So using this as a quote unquote template, I would suggest and advocate for you to do the same thing for yourselves. Again, no right or wrong answers. Why is it critical? Because it keeps you focused and it prevents you from going off the rails. All right. Because you could get on LinkedIn, Indeed, Monster.com, any of these job boards, any given night or overnight, you can see hundreds, if not thousands of jobs that you might be qualified for. But if it isn't aligned with what you really want to do and how you've thought through it or if we're working together, how you've bounced it off me and convinced me that's what you want to do. And again, it's not about convincing me, it's about convincing you so that you when you're in front of somebody and you're interviewing, your genuineness and your sincerity come through loud and clear. Okay, so again, this is just a template that I have everybody that I work with is I don't want to say obligated to use, but it really does help clarify things. Pursuing a passion, and some of that's come up in the last certainly last night. Is there some still small voice inside you that says, I've always wanted to do blank? And that doesn't mean I've always wanted to skydive, although it might.
Mhm.
It would be, I've always thought about doing this, but I could make more money doing what I don't like. And I've quote unquote settled. All right. There's no time like the present. So if your passion can be monetized, we can figure out a way to do that. Has anybody ever seen the initials ICNU? Does anybody tell me what that means? Anybody want to take a guess about what that means? Okay, I won't keep the answer any longer. What it means is somebody else or other people see in you something or some things. I see in you that you are a very good fill in the blank. And a lot of times we have these skill sets, we have these talents that we take for granted. And I use this example. There's a guy that I used to sing in church choral groups back in New Jersey. And the single best keyboard player I ever saw, based on what he could sight read and what he could ad lib, we're rehearsing a song one night. I'm about 5 feet from the piano, and we finish, and he says, "Oh, this key is flat." And he presses the key. I'm going, "Jack, come on. What do you mean it's flat?" Then he pressed the octave above and the octave below. Sure enough, it was a notch flat. And he says, "Oh yeah, I have perfect pitch. I found out that I had it at age 7 or 8." The issue was he didn't know nobody else had it until he was about 20. So he has this gift of perfect pitch, and his ability as a musician is just off the scale that and I'll say this, somewhat takes for granted. Everybody on this call has some superpowers that people will come to you for, either for advice or for clarification or for your knowledge or something like that. What is that for you, or what are they for you? And what does it say about you? Okay, so the combination of your own internal voice and what people are saying outside can often turn into a pathway that you may not have considered before.
That's
Okay.
a great point. It's just a great point because sometimes, you do hear that people say, "Oh, you should be this," or "you'd be great at that," and you think to yourself, "Oh no, I can't do that," or "It's not my thing." But when you hear it more than once, it's probably worth noting.
Do you have an example of that for yourself?
Yeah, I have been told I should be a teacher.
Okay.
I'd be a good teacher.
Okay.
It just was not something I ever considered because I've always been in business, not.
Well, let's back up for a step. Somebody else on the line here, and she'll be on shortly, is a trainer in her company.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'd be like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Kindergarten Cop if I were a teacher, especially with younger kids. I mean, I might be able to do high school or college age, but younger, no, it just wouldn't work. But the skill sets that are associated with being a teacher, the mindset and the acumen, those are things that you can use in other types of roles.
Right.
Okay.
Like training. Yeah. Right.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
So, and it may be worth you having an offline conversation with our distinguished guest here, who I'll introduce in a few minutes. Anyway, so reinvention, you should consider this if your function, role, or industry experience are not in demand. Now, when I first moved to New Jersey back in the late 80s, pharma and telecom were all the rage. Then there were mergers, acquisitions, downsizes, and everything else. Now it's basically they're hanging on. And I put buggy whips here kind of tongue in cheek because nobody sells buggy whips anymore. After Henry Ford perfected the Model A, people went for cars, and buggy whips for horses were no longer in vogue. What are growing industries that you may want to consider? In 12 years of doing this work, I've met one web developer. which means there's more work for guys who, or people who are web developers, social media experts, etc. Then there was a need for them to come see me for help finding another job. Okay, there's also an extreme shortage of construction workers, contractors, etc. There's a whole generation of 20 and 30 somethings that were more or less fed the story, if you get a college degree, you're set for life, but it's just not the case. And I know several people, particularly in this part of the world, in rural northern Vermont, who have made a great living in construction, contracting, didn't have to pay the college degree or the college loan costs, and they're doing really well. And once they get a business started and they hire some other people, they can do really well. So again, this whole part of the conversation is about opening up what potential options may be out there for you that you may not have considered.
And so, Bill, right, with AI, right, being out there, you might start seeing some developers on your forums, right, because AI is going to take some of those lower level development jobs. Right?
Agreed. Agreed. There are situations that I've run into related to AI where an architect who was with a company for 7 years, the automated design capabilities of some of the AI features basically put him out of a $160,000 a year position that he had grown into. And it was a cost cutting measure because the company had several others like him and they only needed 3 as opposed to 5. And he was one of the 2 because he was making too much money that was let go. AI, I'm going to speak about that on Thursday as well. Right. People have told me, well, just write your resume with AI. AI to me, and I use it a fair amount, is a very good thought starter. But if you don't put your own voice into it, if you don't put your own editing into it, it's very, very mechanical and very rote. It's gotten a lot better in the last even 6 months and will continue to get better, I'm sure. And there are all kinds of, memes and videos out there about the good and evil of AI, but it's here. You have to take advantage of it. I'll talk about AI tomorrow night as well as it relates to finding organizations and positions that would line up with what you want to be doing. But good point. Okay, now, so anyway, how many of you have a plan B? This is the second part of this slide. Part-time or full-time source of income you can rely on when your plan A goes away. Average job tenure these days is about 2.8 years, down from 4.5 about 25 years ago. Temp or part-time is becoming the norm. Companies are doing everything they can to avoid having to pay full-time benefits and everything else that goes along with it. So these income sources can be terrific and they can become your plan A. I know several people who have transitioned successfully from a traditional job into these types of circumstances, investments, rental properties, a franchise, turning a hobby into a business where you can make some money, and multi-level marketing companies. They get a bad rap as pyramid schemes. But if you go to any large corporation and you look at the CEO, the president, and the C-level executives, then you'll see what a real pyramid scheme is all about. I mean, they're making it's 50, 100, 200 times what the average worker is and get bonuses based on how many average workers they can set aside and cost-cutting measures and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, it does help the investors. It helps the stock and certain things like that. And there are always considerations. But everybody has to fend for themselves. And that's one of the reasons why I bring up Plan B options as something to consider. Okay, so last night we started with career goals and direction. I hope we got a little ways down the road, and now I'm going to switch gears. And you've just stepped into the batter's box and hit a hard line drive to left field, and you were about to go to first base. And we're going to start talking about your value proposition, which is the framework. Like once you've done the laying the concrete and concrete floor, if you will, of what your career goals and directions are, your value proposition is the frame and the structure and the building blocks of your home. Okay, what I want to make sure everybody understands is this, and I've seen probably in the neighborhood of 20,000 resumes in the last 12 years. 25% of them I wouldn't send a high school kid out with. Another 60% plus or minus focus on duties, responsibilities, and activities, which people do not care about. What they do care about are accomplishments contributions, how you've added value, and what your skills and assets are. And anybody who writes a resume with me, and I've worked on over 1,000 in my career, including my time back in graduate school, this is where we focus on. And accomplishments that are quantifiable with numbers, percentages, comparisons, etc., are a lot more valuable than qualifiable. And I'll go into what that means when we start looking at different resume formats. Okay. When I spent many years in corporate marketing and brand management and also new product development, there was a market research protocol where you had to define whether or not the product or service you were looking to introduce fit any or all of these five descriptions. Was it unique, compelling, ownable, valuable, and affordable? If you had 4 out of 5, it was likely going to be a winner. If you have all 5 of them, you're absolutely going to be a winner. Okay. Unique could be something like a purple cow, but it's not ownable. Okay. Anybody can paint a cow purple. And there's a whole book on that written by a marketing guru many years ago. Is it compelling? Do your skill sets, do your accomplishments, do your contributions show up and somebody says, wow, I need to hire this person. I need to speak with this person at least. And is it valuable? Compelling and valuable are pretty close, and affordable. That's really the thing that you have to decide when you're going through the negotiating stage. But this is stuff that I learned in marketing products and services. And like it or not, each one of you who's in the job market at whatever level you might be, you are the product and the service. Okay. And that may sound a little cold, but it's the fact of life. So what are your skills? I pulled this meme off the internet a long time ago. It's a little jaded or it's a little fuzzy in terms of the picture quality, but you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. This is cute, but it's not going to get you the job. Okay. And this is the thing that you need to determine. And I'm going to skip forward here for a minute to the interview section. You need to understand what skills and contributions are going to be most valuable to the people that you'll be interviewing with. All right. This is, like I said, cute, but it's not going to work. This is a resume that I worked on for a client back in 2021. And he had some really good accounting intern experience. He also had a graduate degree in accounting, but I'm focusing on what the top section says. These, and you can tell I'm not an expert at using the red arrow drawer here, but just go with me for a second. Except for your name, the words here in the title section are probably the most important on your entire resume, because they will target what it is, number one, that you're looking for, and number two, what the person who's reading the document can expect. So in his case, very clear: corporate accounting, financial analysis, auditing, and tax. And a summary statement, I usually say that would be somewhere between 3 vertical lines to as many as 6, and then key skill sets. These key skill sets bubble up to the top because you want to make sure that people who are looking at your resume immediately know what you can do to support them and help them out. All right, and then we went through the whole rest of the document in terms of his experience, and then his academic background and a couple certifications that he had and everything else. But I'm focusing on positioning statement and titles. Those are what's most important out of what I'm showing you here right now. Okay. Again, resume with these attributes: accomplishments, contributions, and how you added value. It must be clear, compelling, and concise. I learned in a couple of my corporate roles and one really, really good high school teacher how to use a red pen and take as many words out of a document as you can and still communicate the meaning that's necessary. Resumes are exactly that. Okay, I didn't show you a whole lot of bullet points on Matthew's resume, but if we're working together, I've turned bullet points that are 3 lines into a line. And that's important because you want to be able to communicate as much as you can to someone in as little space as possible. They will appreciate you for that. Okay, LinkedIn profile. I could spend a whole session just on this, but what I'll say is it's personalized and less formal. There are a lot of things you can say in your about section on LinkedIn that you would never say on a resume. Your resume is always in the third-party format. But by doing that and showing more of your personhood, you still must highlight your unique value. And if you have other social media, Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever it is you might have, they all need to line up. Your resume is not something that you want to attach to your LinkedIn profile. You want to give people enough information to say, listen, I want to reach out to this individual and have a conversation, and then you send a resume. Don't attach it to your LinkedIn profile. And again, there are at this point 800 million people who have LinkedIn profiles. It is a far more professional Facebook. I had the unfortunate occurrence of being thrown in LinkedIn jail in March of 2023 because I did the abominable crime of the following. I had COVID. My human resources daughter said, Dad, you got to get tested. So I got tested. I had COVID, very mild symptoms, just a sore throat. After I was better and tested negative, I posted on LinkedIn a picture of me holding a positive COVID test with a little smile on my face. Apparently, that rankled enough people that my profile was taken down 2.5 days later, and I couldn't get it back. 5,100 connections were lost. So
for
two
that.
lessons. Two lessons learned. Number one, watch out about being a wise ass. Number one. Number two is have a backup. Okay, I should have had a business page as opposed to just a personal page, and I would have had something else to fall back on. It took me 2 years to get back on LinkedIn. I tried 3 times. I had a lawyer, et
Oh
cetera, et
my
cetera.
God.
So this was the thought police coming down on me in March of 2023, but it is what it is. So I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't have nearly the presence that I did before that time. For anybody who's on this call, posting your either presentations or your videos or some certifications or commendations that you've gotten in your field so that you are perceived as a subject matter expert is really important. Okay, that will go a long way. I worked with a guy in Texas, college student, that after we fixed up his LinkedIn profile, and he's going to graduate in December, and we fixed it up on the first day of June is when we finished it. Within 3 weeks, he had 8 or 9 companies reach out to him. He had an internship this summer, ended up taking a position that will likely pay him, it'll pay him about a $60,000 base salary and likely pay him 90 total, including bonus. And he hasn't even graduated yet. They made him an offer. We went through this process of his unique value, and it included a lot of the stuff that I showed. I'm going to go back a couple slides here related to these skill sets. And he had some very, very good off-campus accomplishments that we spent a lot of time on and put a lot of space in. Once he sent his resume, he was in, like a buddy of mine says, he was in like the butcher's dog. Okay, so once you do this right and you set the framework for what it is that you've done to add value and how you can add value for another organization, that's where the real conversations start. Okay, so any thoughts, questions up to this point?
I have a question, Bill. So
Yeah.
you and I'm looking to a winning position. Would I do like what, like a 3?
Can
What's
you
that?
start that? You're breaking up a little bit, so can you start that again?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So with the LinkedIn, you said that you should post something. So I'm a trainer. Would it be beneficial of me to put like a 1 to 2 minute video
Yes.
or maybe 3-minute video up?
And anything that shows you as a subject matter expert is worthy of LinkedIn. I would be careful about the length. In other words, shorter and sweeter is better than longer. But the idea of LinkedIn is to entice somebody enough. It's like going fishing. You know, if you put the right bait on the end of the hook, then you're going to get a fish that'll bite. And that's what you're looking to do. You're looking to have people reach out to you and have an offline conversation. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And it's fortuitous that you're speaking because I'm going to introduce you here, Lynn. Lynn Brotherston, who just said hello and is talking about LinkedIn. She and I worked together, started in 2018, and we worked together again last summer. She's had several promotions in the mattress industry, has done very well. She's also a founder of a nonprofit in New Jersey cleaning up waterways and has gotten how many quote unquote cleanup operations have you done in the years that you've had this nonprofit?
We have done over 120 cleanups since 2000. What year did I start? 21?
Okay. So, so she will round up a bunch of people to go to a certain waterway, and they'll clean it up, take all the trash to the local um, depot, wherever it goes, and make things a lot better. And in New Jersey, that's saying something. Litter is a huge problem,
It's bad here.
especially around the waterways that lead into the oceans. So, what I wanted to bring Lynn on board here for was because when we first did her resume back in 2018, and then we did it again last year, there were some immediate changes that happened in terms of what her ability to land the next position or to get a promotion were all about. So, Lynn, I'll leave it to you to describe how that worked for you and what your experience was.
Okay, awesome. Hi, guys. So I've been, as Bill said, I've been working with Bill since 2018, and I was down and out at my current position, well, my current position back then. And I was there for about 4.5 years as an area manager. And what happened was I was just getting beat down. It's my work ethic. It's very strong, and it didn't matter. And I was just getting almost bullied by my boss. So my mental health really started to decline. And I had found Bill on, I think it was LinkedIn, and I always had more of an issue articulating my accomplishments. So Bill just sat with me. I think it was over the course of a week or maybe 2 weeks, and just broke everything down simply. And he came up with my resume, and it was like a masterpiece. And after reading it, I was just like, oh my God, I did do all these different things, you know? So, and the way he just had them clearly put on the resume, it was excellent. And so what happened was shortly after that, I actually, I don't even know if Bill knows this, but I took a $20,000 pay cut, and just to get out of there, because that's where my mental health was. And the job that I always wanted, which is the position that I'm in now, so I went with another company for about 3 months just to get out of there, just to pick myself up and get away from that situation. And within 3 months, my dream job came up. And I like, it was just, after having Bill redo my resume and also my LinkedIn profile, it's almost as if people were coming to me. So it was pretty cool, the way it all worked out. And so now, in the current position that I'm in right now, I am kind of starting, my mental health is starting to decline again. I need growth in order to remain positive, and I'm just not getting it. And so I called Bill up probably 4 months ago now,
Hmm.
or yeah, about 4 or 5 months ago, and I just said, I need to work with you again, because I'm not growing in the position that I'm at. I feel like, I feel like I've been set back even, and so here I am working with Bill again. He took my resume and added two. Again, same thing with my resume. It's not until I was speaking with Bill did I realize all the accomplishments that I had and that I was doing. And like, even with the Stroke Your Eco, my nonprofit, he goes, "Yeah, you want to put that on your resume?" And I'm like, "Really?" Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I just had an interview a week and a half ago, and one of the first questions that they asked me about was my nonprofit, and the passion that I had for that. So I was like, "Oh, it is a thing." I didn't even notice. I didn't even know that's something that they would look at. So, which is pretty cool. So thank you, Bill.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. You've always been great to work with. This is Lynn in 2018, and this is what she was doing at Mattress Firm. And without going into details, um, this is what we had for you at the time. And now I'm going to fast forward to last summer, where all of your Tempur-Pedic accomplishments, and this is another thing that I will do with any of you, is I will pull your quantitative accomplishments out of you like a bad tooth. Okay, there are a lot of things.
Bill was even getting a little frustrated with me. So, which I totally understand because, it's really hard sometimes to speak about yourself. So, Bill really did pull it all out of me. So I'm grateful.
And let's go to the nonprofit. Okay, we put 6 lines in there about this, and very intentionally, because there's another guy that I worked with several years ago who was a 6th level black belt in some martial art that I still can't tell you what it was. And I said, you have to put this in there. He said, why? I said, because if you've had the dedication over 25 plus years to get a 6th level black belt, that shows your ability to stick to the task and make things happen for yourself. And sure enough, the second interview he had after we put that in there, the same thing that just happened to Lynn happened to him. Somebody's 12-year-old son, the interviewer's 12-year-old son, was some colored belt in that same martial art. 15 minutes later, the guy made him an offer. Okay, because it shows you as a human being, you don't have to be paid for every skill that you've developed or every attribute that you can provide for a certain organization. Okay, so again, Lynn, thanks for taking the time to explain your situation. Any thoughts or questions that any of you might have while Lynn is on the call? Desiree, is that your hand up?
So I have a question. I don't know where to raise my hand.
That's okay. You just did.
Okay.
This is a small enough group. It's no big deal. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess you say you need improvement, and so you're already looking for something like that next challenge. You need that challenge, that next level of improvement. Is that what you said?
More growth. Yeah.
Growth. Excuse me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like professional growth, like next level from your skill set where you are, or are you?
Yes.
Reaching?
Yes. So I've been doing this position now for about 6 years.
Yeah.
And, I'm just that type of personality that I need to keep growing, or I get a little bored, a little complacent. So, for instance, I'm a sales trainer. I have an account. Mattress Firm is now my account. Go figure. Everything comes full circle. But what I'm really trying to go for now is the national sales training position. So,
got it.
Just because I can't sit still, but not everybody's like that. It's just that's me,
Right.
So.
Yeah, yeah, this similar feeling. You get stuck, and then like I'm starving for that professional development, for peers, for something to that next level in my organization, and there is none.
Mm-hmm.
No.
That's why I reached out to Bill again.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But that's why I reached out to Bill again, because I don't have a mentor where I'm at now. So I was just like, let me give Bill a call again, because he's always good for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just that coaching, that mentorship. He builds up my self-esteem in a way that, he's not even trying to, but he really does help me in that regard. So.
Yeah, it's good to hear.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
and good luck to you.
And there was no under the table $20 going back and forth here with this. And Lynn, I appreciate you taking the time to to spend with some people, some of whom I know and some of whom I don't know that well. But your thought about getting a little, let's call it antsy after 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it might be, I think is a pretty common theme with almost everybody on this call. So it's one of those things, what the time is, what the circumstances are. And ironically, your gut doesn't lie. It'll tell you, hey, something isn't right here, and I need to do something about it. So applaud all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules just to do some introspective work, which is what we're doing right now. So.
Well, I have just one other thing too. At a certain point, does age really matter anymore? I mean, I hear that it does, like when the older you get, the less desirable that you are for.
I'm going to get into that tomorrow, but I will just
Okay.
say it's all in your head. Okay.
Okay.
If you have, and I'll be very quick about the answer here. There is age discrimination out there, as unfortunately there is other discriminations that still exist. They're not as bad as they used to be, but they're still out there. Age has become the most prominent one, but what it usually means is dollars per output. And like people, as you go further along in your career, you're making more money, and you may or may not be worth that much money to an employer who can bring somebody in who's 20 years younger and pay them 2/3 what they're paying you. That said, if you have the current skill set, keyword is current, if you have the energy level that says you can come in on Monday morning and leave on Friday afternoon and maybe work a weekend here and there to get the job done, then you're valuable. If you're not parenting your coworkers, and I've seen people who do that, and if you can change priorities on a dime and not complain about it, there's a place for you. Right? There's absolutely a place for you, because I've said this to dozens of job fair attendees. Those of you in your 40s and 50s, even your 60s, are solving problems before the 20 or 30 somethings even know the problem exists.
Right.
And that is a huge benefit, because you don't have to be micromanaged. You don't have to be trained from the ground up and all that other kind of stuff. It is up to you as a prospective employee to communicate your value in a way that's meaningful to the person who's going to be paying you in whatever way that means. Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'll go into more that you beat me to that question, but it's out there. I mean, there's no denying it, but there are ways to overcome it.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move on for a little bit here, and we're getting close to the end. So
I
your
do have
homework.
one question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Desiree. Yeah.
So I was listening the whole time, and I heard you say that the title on the resume is what is like a key focus.
Mhm.
What do you do when you have so many positive job descriptions that could intertwine with one another? Like for me, I come from a medical billing and coding background, but I also did data analyst. I also did call center. I also did receptionist, which all could intertwine with each other, but the job title would be different.
What happens is this, okay? You need to merge and purge. Okay, and that's something that we go through the exercise of doing. Rule of thumb with a resume is that everything below this line, professional experience, you can see a resume here, yes, on the screen share. Okay, everything below this line is pretty much done. Okay, it is. You can describe your accomplishments in different ways. You may emphasize a few more things on one resume or another, depending on which type of position you're going for. Above this line, and this is the whole section I'm going to highlight here, this is what your present/future looks like. This is what, okay, so this is like, so Desiree, what I'm saying is you can say that you've had experience as a medical coder, and you may or may not want to do that exact job, but you can speak to what the skill sets are that you attained by being a medical coder and then turn it into another title. This is for a way longer conversation than right here, but that's the short answer.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay. Okay. So let's go back to here, and you can screenshot this, or it's in your Google Doc. How many of you have opened the Google Doc that was part of the attachment? Again, I'm still learning all of this myself, so I believe it was there. All of the quote unquote homework and all of the note capabilities are in that Google Doc if you want to use it through, between now and the end of the week. So what I'd like you to do, and again, this will probably take you, this is about a half hour, 40-minute assignment, is to pick 2 or 3 accomplishments that you are the most proud of. And it doesn't matter when they happened, and it doesn't matter whether you're getting paid for them. The college student that I was telling you about, and Jeff, I think you know who I'm talking about, all of what he did in terms of leadership was described in his off-campus fraternity experience. And he had multiple things that he could draw from. So your accomplishments could be with a nonprofit, it could be with a volunteer type circumstance, or it could be in a work circumstance. That's ideal, but you can use accomplishments from any aspect of your background. So
I have a question.
write it out. Hold on one second. Let me just finish this thought. write it out as a general description. And I'll give you an example here is like grew sales 10% each year for 3 years consecutively. Circumstances. You took over the territory that had been declining by 10% for the 3 previous years. The actions were you called up all of the old customers that hadn't been accessed in a couple of years. You put a business development plan together where you reached out to 55 new customers, and the results were what I just described. You grew the business of the territory 10% each year for 3 years in a row. All right. Again, that's just a very generic one. And the other thing is, hold on, I want to think if I have that here. Oh, there it is. This is what I'm looking for. It grew sales territory by 24%. Territory was declining 10 to 20%. Developed all these new contacts. 35 became clients. Blah blah blah. Created a 24% increase in sales and 45% increase in customer base. One of the reasons why you do this is for the resume. The other one is for the interview, because when you're able to deliver the summary of your story in sound bites, and I mean 15 to 30 seconds max, what the circumstances, actions, and results were, then you tell the interviewer 2 things. Number 1, you tell them you can get the job done. And number 2, you tell him or her that you can communicate quickly and effectively. So they don't have to listen to you tell a 5-minute story when you could tell it in 15 seconds. Okay? Now, let me think if I did, oops, no, I'm not there yet. There are, and I don't know, where did I put that on this slide? Hold on. Nope, I didn't put it in there. I have to add that in. Okay, I'm going to ask you to take some notes for this. Okay. There are 5 ways that I have found that you can add value. And I will put this in the follow-up email that comes with the Zoom link. 5 ways are this. The first one is you can either grow revenue or increase membership. That's kind of like 1 and 1A. The second is you can cut costs or make things more efficient. That's 2 and 2A. Third one is you can solve big problems, which would be if you're in IT, it took you 18 months to do a system conversion that ultimately is saving, 40,000 person hours a year. I'm making it up. But to solve big problems is number 3. Prevent big problems is number 4. People in legal and regulatory are really good at that. Had a client 6-7 years ago who saved his pharmaceutical company client $1 billion in potential FDA mandate fines because he cleaned up their good manufacturing processes. He turned their bad manufacturing process into good, and then he saved the company almost $1 billion. That's preventing a big problem. The 5th one is either creating, supervising, or developing teams to do the first 4. So some of you may be in manager, senior manager type roles where you're not actually doing the cost cutting, you're not actually doing the revenue growth, but you are managing those who are. So all those will fall in under accomplishments. And Desiree, for instance, as a medical coder, you might be able to say, improved your processing of medical billing from, 10 an hour to 20 an hour in a 6-month period. I'm making it up.
No, you're actually pretty accurate, but to counteract what you said too, not counteract, that's not the right verbiage, but for my company, a lot of employees weren't looking properly for insurances, and I was able to save the company $5 million by finding the proper insurance and taking my time and due diligence in that. So
If you're if anybody's ever watched the Bad News Bears, there's a famous line in there by one of the 12-year-olds. It says, "You're killing me, Smalls." Okay, so those are the exact type of unique accomplishments and extremely valuable ones that I'm looking for.
mhm.
So 2 or 3 is fine. If we work together, I'm going to have you do the full laundry list. The
And
longest
I do still have a question from before. Is it okay if I ask?
in a second.
Okay.
The longest accomplishment list that I've ever seen from a client was 18 pages. Okay,
wow.
we still turned it into a 2-page resume, but the detail was important because it gave him the framework by which he could speak to those accomplishments in an interview, and ultimately he purged them down quite a bit as well. All right, so yeah, question, go ahead.
So for when you were talking about things that are non-job related, like the black belt and things of that nature
Hmm.
that you could intertwine with your resume,
Hmm.
would it be a good idea or a bad idea? Because it, like you said, there is some discrimination to include what you learned and your value as a mother.
It would have to directly apply to what the position is all about. Okay,
Like time management, patience, things
right.
of that nature.
Well, see, those are qualitative skills that you can talk about in an interview. You might be able to use a phrase or two in the summary section at the top, but they
Okay.
wouldn't come in as accomplishments.
Okay.
They come in as descriptions more than they do as accomplishments.
Okay.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions? Okay, and then the second thing is your ideal job description. Again, take a screenshot of this or look at the Google Doc and it's in there. And as best you can, just write out what would be a home run for you. Okay, I'm going to scroll forward. Only got a couple more slides left. All of the stuff that I'm talking to you about is in my book, Finding God's True Purpose for Your Career. I co-wrote it with a gentleman named Henry Lesher, and I use a PDF version of this right now. Henry's retired. He's taken his name out of all this. But there's a whole bunch of exercises, including this one, about your accomplishments that are in the book and the workbook as well. And the workbook I know I also still have as a PDF. I've run out of printed copies, and so is the publisher. But either way, this is available to you if it's something that you're looking for. If we haven't connected yet on Facebook or LinkedIn, I'm going to leave it to you to reach out to me. Both is better. Right now, I have more information on Facebook than I do LinkedIn, but that will change in the coming weeks. And as I mentioned to you last night, if you would like a lifetime access to the YouTube recordings that are coming out of this and a copy of my book and a bonus call at the end of the week, that would be $47. Zelle or Venmo is the best way to do it. If you want to send me Bitcoin, we can talk offline,
Hmm.
and we'll go from there. And thoughts, questions, reactions?
So you said the homework to list accomplishments
Mm-hmm.
and an ideal job description, but then you said there's 5 ways I can add value. I'm kind of overwhelmed thinking, what where what would you like to see in that accomplishments area? Are we using the 5 ways that I can add value, like pulling
Yeah.
from there to list accomplishments in that area? Is
Well,
that what
let's
you're-
put it. You don't have to do all 5. Okay. In fact, there's only one person that I've worked with in 12 years who could legitimately say that they had accomplishments in all 5 of those areas. I was just giving you those as a place to start. Okay. Like in
Okay,
your
so
role, like in your role, based on what I know about it up to this point, there are definitely some revenue growth accomplishments that you can speak to. Is that accurate?
yes.
And those are going to be primary for you.
Okay. So
And go ahead.
that list of 5 ways, in other words, is trying to get you to think about what your accomplishments have
That's
been.
right. That's right.
Okay, got it.
It's more kind of like here would be the 5 pillars, if you will, that you could, group
Okay.
your accomplishments
Okay.
under. And if you don't have them all, don't worry about it. Okay. If you have
Right.
one, if you have strong 1 or strong 2, there's a place for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Going once? Is that a hand melody or are you just moving your pen around?
No,
There-
I'm just moving my pen.
Okay. All good. All right. With that, we'll see you tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, and look forward to what you come up with homework wise. At some point this week, I'm going to put together a Facebook Messenger group that will allow more interaction going forth. But again, I'm still getting used to doing this, so bear with me as I run through the trial gauntlet here, and we'll go from there. Tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about the follow-up to tonight, and we're also going to speak about effective networking and outreach strategies that will get you in front of the right people more quickly than you may have up to this point. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thanks to all of you, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Good
night.
night.